I'm Dr. Christopher Barker. Welcome back to Holding Space. Or if this is your first time, welcome to Holding Space. I'd like to, despite my training as a psychologist, focus on issues that you may encounter in your everyday life and hopefully deepen some understandings of some, I suppose, disorders that we will encounter, or perhaps that we see some symptoms of in ourselves. And once again, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. If you look up definitions of different disorders on the internet and in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, which is sort of the Bible of psychology, we can find symptoms of any number of disorders that we may have. That does not mean that we have the disorder. That means that you may have a couple of symptoms of a disorder, and sometimes things that emerge as disorder symptoms can emerge as a result of stress, or as a result of trauma, or as a result of relationship issues. There are a variety of different factors, and we'll look at some of those as we go along. But one that has been getting a lot of attention right now is psychopathy, or sociopathy, or antisocial personality disorder, depending on when and who is saying the disorder. And it is a disorder to an extent that it creates a problem in living. It's been said that one of the best indicators of whether something is considered a disorder or just a personality quirk or just a feature is the fact that it creates problems in living. That's been the definition of psychological problems dating back for the last probably 50 years. So we've been dealing with that particular idea, that it is something that creates a disorder in your ability to relate to other people, or a disorder in your ability to function in society in a healthy and productive way. So if something is bothering you to the extent that it is keeping you from living your best life, then definitely see someone about it. If it is something that is just a feature of something that you're going through right now, it's good to just sort of understand that. Again, let's go back to psychopathy versus sociopathy versus an antisocial personality disorder. It's gone through some changes because when this particular syndrome disorder was initially proposed, it was called psychopathy. And of course, the image of the psychopath draws forth any Silence of the Lambs, serial killer type images that you may happen to have. But that is not always the way that this manifests. The way that it's defined now, the DSM-5 criteria for antisocial personality disorder, includes disregarding the law and doing acts that could lead to arrest, deceitful behavior that includes lying, using aliases, and conning others, poor individual and interpersonal functioning, antagonism and disinhibition. You don't have any trouble antagonizing people and you can say or do anything. Consistent behavior across time and situations, no other psychological, social, or cultural explanation, and behavior not caused by substance abuse or medical disorder. So there are certain types of brain lesions that can disinhibit our behavior and cause psychopathic or antisocial behavior. Lesions in the left prefrontal orbital cortex, those are often associated with impairment of executive function and the inability to restrain oneself. It doesn't give you bad thoughts, but it enables you to act out on your bad thoughts. So they found that people with lesions there can do anything from excessive gambling. There is one famous case that's been documented on Law and Order of someone who exhibited child molestation behavior as a result of a lesion. The Texas clock tower shooter was popularly assumed to have a lesion in his prefrontal cortex also, and that's why he went into the clock tower and shot so many people. But, I mean, those are outliers. Those are extreme cases. And well, what I want to look at today is the type of person that you might run across more often in your normal daily activities. We're going to call the functional psychopath. Now, the way it's seen today, psychopathy is generally seen as being genetic. What gene, we don't know for sure. Is it genetic? Is it epigenetic, as we discussed in a previous podcast? Maybe. Until we can point definitely to a particular gene, then I guess we can say probably genetic, because it seems to be present from a very early age, and it lasts throughout life. Sociopathy is generally seen as environmental. It's seen as something that happens as a result of environmental factors that you're exposed to, family factors, relationship factors, and antisocial personality disorder is a little more vague altogether. But you'll see that what I've said so far about antisocial personality disorder tends to define it as law-breaking. It tends to be something that is related to why people engage in criminal behavior. Yeah, I mean, those types of factors could definitely lead to criminal behavior. They don't have to, however. And what I'm calling functional psychopathy is, well, let's take a look at what's missing. Gregory Lester, whom I quote from time to time, has said that a personality disorder, as opposed to a mental illness, is the difference between lifting the hood of your car and saying, oh, there's something wrong with the transmission. That's an illness, and it's something that can be fixed. Personality disorder is more like opening the hood of a car and seeing, oh, there's no engine. There's something really significant that's missing, and it's hard to put that back in. If you never had it to begin with, or if you've had a long time without having any contact with empathy in this case, then you are not likely to be able to fix that easily. I would say of the cluster B personality disorders, narcissism, borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, that empathy is the key missing component. And let's think about that for a second. If you have someone who has no sense of empathy or, I guess, awareness of the repercussions of the things that they might do, they can do anything. A functional psychopath would rise very well in an organization. They are generally more intelligent than the average person, or perhaps just less inhibited, and so they are able to spend more time learning. They observe well other people. They can wear a mask of well-being and of normalcy. And because they look like everyone else, and in many occasions behave like everyone else, they go without detection. They can rise in organizations to CEO because they have no reason for not firing vast numbers of people on Christmas Eve, for instance, or doing whatever it takes to get to the bottom line. They are successful, and they can engage in relationships if they're interested in another person, if they want to engage in a relationship, and they can do a very good job with that until it gets boring, and then they have a tendency to move on. And will that hurt the other person? Well, yeah, but they don't really care. That is the thing that is most observable in the psychopath, sociopath, that they do what needs to be done. They do what they want to do. And if it hurts somebody else, well, that's too bad. They need to just get over it. They can be good partners, again, up to a point. They don't make the best parents in the world because, again, that involves a certain amount of understanding, putting things together, and caring about what someone's going through. They function well in the working world, however. They are good executives. They are good politicians because they will say whatever needs to be said in order to get into office. And then to hold that office, they will do whatever they need to do. You combine that with features of things like narcissism, and you have someone who is likely to rise to the top, be very popular, be sparkling, be very effervescent, and yet at the same time utterly ruthless. So again, looking at it from a productive point of view, do you want a functional psychopath on your staff? Yeah, probably. Do you want to hand them all the keys to the kingdom? No, definitely not. Because they will possibly fire you. They have no problem with doing whatever needs to be done to get what they want. I find this, they say that psychopathy, sociopathy is present in about 4% of the population. It's probably a little higher than that because, again, we tend to look at these people and go, oh, that's a successful person. And yeah, that person is doing very well for themselves. And we don't look at them as disordered. It's only when they break the law or get caught breaking the law, I guess I should say, that we realize that there's something wrong with this. When they run afoul of our needs or wants or our basic well-being, then we see that there's something wrong with it. But in the meantime, that person can pass. That person fits in society. There is a place, especially in modern American society, for that person. Because we look up to success. We look up to people who are rugged individualists who stand on their own and they are independent and they are able to do what needs to be done to get the job done. And at the same time, that's a very disordered person in some ways. I'm not saying that everybody who gets the job done is a psychopath. I'm just saying that it really makes it a lot easier to do. We want to take a look at some of the other ways that the personality disorders or some symptoms of them affect other relationships. But for now, I'll leave you with this about the functional psychopath. They are desirable in a social situation. They're desirable in a work situation. They're not necessarily killers. However, they could be if you stand in their way and try to prevent them from doing something. I mean, why not? There's a famous test of psychopathy that we can do sometime when we focus on assessments. For now, let's just be aware of the fact that there are people who are symptomatic of this particular disorder. And again, if it's getting in the way of their successful living or your successful living, it is a disorder. That's all for now, and thank you for holding space for this particular discussion. If you have questions, please email or call, and we will be glad to address your questions in future podcasts. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Dr. Christopher Barker.